Hey all, this is Dave, and today's big hairy idea is to own your origin story. So yesterday we talked about origin stories. We talked about how all the superheroes had them, a reason they did what they did. We talked about how Spider-Man had his uncle was killed, and Batman had his parents killed in front of him, and Superman had his entire planet and society destroyed, and they all kind of spoke to these characters. They made them who they were. They made them want to go out and change things and have an impact in the world. What I didn't share is I didn't share my own personal origin story, because we really all have one. So when I think back, what is the origin story for me? What made me take the steps that I've taken in life and do the type of work that I'm doing? And it really goes back a little over a decade now to when I was starting out in business. And at first things were going fantastic. With very little work, I was really in the right place at the right time. And I started a business that started doing very well. I was putting very little effort in, making a lot of money, and was really doing great with it. And at a certain point, the business was making more than we actually could even spend. And at that point, I think my discomforts with money started to come up and started saying, well, why should I be making all this money? Really, wouldn't it be great? I can be hiring all these people. I can be helping so many other people to make a strong living here in Israel where I live. And I started hiring people like crazy and like thinking about all the jobs I could create and all these great things I can do. And what went from being a small business that made a whole bunch of money and had a lot of success went to being a large business that was losing a ton of money and was suddenly a huge hassle to manage. It was no longer a very easy thing for me to be doing. I was now doing a ton, working my butt off and having less productivity than ever. And the revenues were still there, but the costs had gone through the roof. And so I was just losing tons and tons of money, and things were really falling apart for me. And I'd heard this idea that, I live here in Jerusalem. I live a very half-hour walk from the Western Wall. It looks a bit like that, but much bigger. And it's such an amazing thing that I live here and I can go to the wall, but I rarely did. But there's this idea that I'd heard that if you go to the Kotel, the Western Wall, 40 days in a row, and you pray for one thing, that you'll be answered. So financially, we were falling apart, and I said, you know what, I'm going to try this. I'm going to go to the Kotel, I'm going to walk there, and I'm going to pray for 40 days that things should turn around. And so I did this day after day after day, and I prayed at the wall. And I was looking, what was I looking for? I was looking for a very specific thing. I was looking to be able to keep this business, be able to keep all these employees, help all these people, but somehow it would now work. Somehow the revenue we would make would get so much higher. We'd just have so many gains that I could keep this whole business running. And I got an answer, but it wasn't the one I was looking for. And it was a certain point that I was just there at the wall, and I had this moment of clarity. And I like to compare this moment of clarity to a moment that we have in the Torah, that Moses is leading the people out of Egypt. Everybody knows the story. They're slaves in Egypt. There's all these plagues that come down, and Moses leads the people out, and they go to the the Red Sea, or the Sea of Reeds, it says in the Torah, and the Egyptians are chasing after them with all of these chariots, and the people are freaking out, saying, "Oh, great! You brought us out of Egypt, to kill us out here in the wilderness." And at a certain point, God says to Moses, "What are you doing? Why are you praying to me? You know what to do. Raise up your hand, split the sea, and walk on." And whereas you don't see Moses praying, you see that he was clearly praying for some sort of salvation, some sort of miracle that would happen. And what God was saying is, you've actually got the power in your hands. Do what you can do. And that's kind of the clarity that I got. That was the moment I got, saying that really what I was praying for was a miracle should happen that allowed me to continue running my business like an idiot, and it would all work out okay anyway. And what I was told was like, no. That's not how this works. You got to do what you got to do. Are you going to have to let some people go? Yes. Are you going to have to make some big changes to the way you run things? Yes. Are you going to have to admit that you made a lot of really dumb choices and start doing other things? Yes. But you know what? Grow up and learn what you're doing. Because up till now, your initial first couple years of business, they were kind of a gift. You were in the right place at the right time. You made money without trying hard, without knowing much about what you're doing. It was kind of a gift. Don't pat yourself on the back and think that this was all by your brilliance that you did it. But now it's time to learn. Now it's time to actually start to learn what you need to know to actually mature yourself into a business person who's capable of taking this business on and taking it to the next level. So make the hard decisions, cut people. You got to let people go. You got to actually cut expenses. Close that office, that big office that you'd opened up. Got to close it down. You got to reverse a lot of these decisions. You got to cut back on the businesses you're doing and focus on your most profitable ones. You need to study actual business and figure out how to read a balance sheet, how to look at all these different numbers. You need to figure out business techniques and how to manage people, how to hire people, how to do all of these things. You can do it. It's not going to be easy. And the process of digging myself out was so much longer and harder than the process of digging myself into the hole in the first place. But I've grown so much from the whole process and become kind of addicted to learning and growing and then teaching these things that I'm learning. Another thing I got during that period, I never quite associated it with it at the time as being an answer to my prayers at the wall. It's only in retrospect that I realized that this change in my life happened at the exact same period, because at the time it happened, it was such a minor thing I didn't think anything of it. But I started writing my first book, The Lamp of Darkness. I came up with the whole concept for the Age of Prophecy series. And at the time, it felt like something different. It felt like a cute little side project, but really all my focus was on fixing the business. But I've come to realize that no, that actually I was also answered in that way. I was given this other section, this other project to be working on, this other kind of mission to be taking on, because I really feel like all of my writing has been a mission, and it's grown to be much bigger than my businesses in a certain way, not in terms of income, not in terms of profits, but in terms of the time and the effort that I'm putting in. The books have really become much more dominant, whereas the business has been scaled back to being the smaller thing that is, again, bringing in some profits without taking a huge amount of time. So I've really been able to focus on learning the things I need to learn, growing from them, and teaching them, which is kind of the philosophy that I've taken on: learn, grow, and teach. And that's my origin story. That's how that I really came to this place of being the guy who wants to be digging in and learning all I can and trying to change myself through it and try to teach that to the world as well, which is what really led me to make this series of videos. And it all goes back to over a decade, to this place of brokenness, of feeling like a total failure and a loser, and saying, wow, I just need to pray to get some kind of answer and salvation, because I'm absolutely struggling to turn things around in my own life. So that is my origin story. That's kind of what spoke to me about the changes that I need to make in my life. And if I look back, just huge gains have come from that very painful period up till going to the Kotel, those 40 days going to the Kotel, the Western Wall, the very difficult aftermath after the Kotel, all of that. But it was just really set the groundwork for just making huge jumps in my life in so many different ways. And my question for you is, what is your origin story?